Welcome back to the fourth episode of SDRing. This is Steve Schmidt. Gabe Lullo, just literally 5 seconds ago, before this episode started, filming on a Friday, said, I'm excited. And you know what? We are excited because when we get together, Gabe, we just talk like a couple of 84-year-old Midwestern grandmothers. We just go to town.
How about New York, Long Island moms talking about their son and coffee? You ever watch Coffee Talk? Remember back in the day with Mike Myers on Saturday Night Live?
SNL. Yeah, he's great. And it's true. And that's the scary part is I've only been to Long Island once, and it was for a wedding, and I got the whole the 7-8 courses.
Yeah, there you go.
Everything was insane. People were jumping in like the ocean at the end of the night. I was like, then this is normal. This is normal.
Yeah.
This is Pauly D's lifestyle. The Jersey Shore. We need another Jersey Shore. We'll do our best to be that. But today we're just going to talk about 3 elements in a continuation, guys, of what we were talking about. I think this is, as Gabe would put it, the most important part of anything we could offer you to. Advice is on mindset. And so we're going to break it down across 3 areas today. So listen to this because you'll want to follow along. Number 1, a weird one to talk about, but it won't be weird when we start to identify the things and you'll go, oh, I do that. Yeah, I do that. I do that too. So it's body. What do you do physically to take care of yourself while you're working? This is an endurance job at times. Number 2 is the mind. What do you do to take care of your mind outside of work, during work, after work? Are you doing the right things, or are you doing everything else that you know you shouldn't be doing, and it starts to feel bad? And that's the biggest trap for me, Gabe, still to this day. And then 3 would be spirit, which is, what do you bring? How do you react? How are you emotionally responding to people? Can you truly be empathetic? Because you can tell.
Yeah, for sure.
And I think when I say spirit, Gabe, I'm talking less about the first row of the Catholic pupil or the Catholic, what do you call that thing where you sit down and you get on your knees?
The pew.
Pew. Sorry, my grandmother would definitely not like that. So we're not going to the pew in spirituality, but we're going to talk about in the essence of when people are like, hey, this is a spirit rally.
Right.
What do you got? So let's start with the tough one, body. Right? You started taking care of your body the last couple of years, right, Gabe?
I have, yeah. Actually, I hired a personal coach, wellness coach, a guy. He's the Mr. Canada, all natural, and he has a really cool wellness program, and I'm on that now. So it's been great.
Well, when Mr. Canada shows up in your DMs, you respond.
Yeah, I mean, he actually is LinkedIn. He got me on LinkedIn, which is awesome. But yeah, we've been working together now, and he's unbelievable. I used to have really bad TMJ in my jaw. I would just clench. I would wake up literally clenching my entire body. And I started taking some of these supplements, these vitamins. I started hydrating differently, and it literally is dissipating. And it's been amazing because when you're in constant pain, it starts to go into what we talked about before, the mindset of everything. So taking care of yourself, walking every day. I bought, an Apple Watch, tracking my stuff, because, when you work from home and when you're working as hard as, you and I are working, running companies, you get attached to your calendar. I run literally 15, 20 Zoom calls.
Terrible for your body. And then Gabe, you're also probably typing, right? So you probably got shoulders that hurt like a mother effer on Friday, Yeah. God, I'm getting old. I went to the chiropractor the other day and I was like, wow, my shoulders really hurt. I think it's from the gym. She's like, do you type? And I'm like, yeah. She goes, well, that's what it is. I was like, fuck that. I'm like, that is not what it is. Don't say that ever again, please.
Right. Then it takes away your mindset to work. Right. But there's I know a lot of people on my team. Actually, one of our top managers, she has a treadmill underneath, the flat one underneath her desk, and she stands up. She's doing 20,000 steps a day. I'm like, how are you doing that? She's like, I'm on my treadmill right now. I'm like, really? I can't even tell. So those
super
are things
slow pace, right? Like a 1.5 mile pace.
Yeah, exactly. Just
she probably walks 6 miles a day.
She does. It's awesome. And
that's how.
But one of the things I was saying a long time ago, when I saw that movie, I think it was Boiler Room when I was a kid, right? Is motion creates emotion, right? And so I'm a pacer, so when I'm on cold calls, especially if I'm on a prospect, I'm up and I'm walking, back and forth, because it gets my mind focused on the call, and I close my eyes when I'm talking to a prospect, and I picture this. I picture me and that prospect sitting across, a table or in front of me face to face, and that that body, that way of doing it. A lot of people, they smile and dial, like they have mirrors on their desk, so they're looking at themselves smiling. Like those little things are so valuable.
Yeah, smile and dial. What if we started something called jog and vlog?
There you go. I like it.
Like we run while doing a podcast. That would be so hard to listen to.
Yeah.
It
Your
would
head
be
goes
if
up
we
and
made
down
it
like that. Yeah.
to the end. Yeah.
Yeah.
I've never seen a podcast with two people walking. That could be interesting.
Yeah.
I think that's a big one. So for me, walking was huge. I mean, I'd love to tell you is the time I deadlifted like 610 pounds and tore my belly button out. Quite the opposite. What I found was 7 years ago when I went to the gym, I was trying to do more effort on top of more effort, right? And so your body at night, it's like work hard all day, go work at the gym, drink hard at night, sleep hard, sauna hard. Life is hard. And so more was not less for me. It wasn't even more. It kind of made me just feel like shit. Like, when you feel tired and dehydrated like that, and then you go like, why don't I feel good? And to your point, you start to get confused.
Right.
And you go, well, maybe I just don't like this job. This job, I don't like being an SDR. It's
Right.
too hard on my this and that. And what I would tell everybody is go back to the first interview when you sat in front of that manager and said, I'll do whatever it takes. Because I would say there's really only 3 things you need to do. Take care of yourself, work out, show up 8 hours a day. And if you do those 3 things, and someone would say, well, how does that do it? I'd say every good subject line in the world cannot beat that recipe.
Right.
Because half of this game, Gabe, I am convinced now today is reacting.
Yep.
Because you're going to get told no.
Yep.
Not just it's not right now. It is a no, go F yourself. Like, how did you get my number? How dare you call me in the middle of a recession? Do you know what I'm going through?
Right.
And reacting versus responding is hard.
100%.
And
it absolutely is.
And I think that the walks, listening to calls, if I was an SDR, Gabe, what I would do is probably say, okay, if I'm going through this, I'm listening to Steve and Gabe, I get stressed during the day. Like Gabe, I'm going to start to triangulate my living room and make everybody in my house a little bit nervous, but in a good way. Because they probably know a sale's about to happen when you start doing that, by the way. But to commit to that and listen to your calls, right? I say that's usually the best hour I can recommend to you a day. And then you just listen to yourself and you go, ooh, I didn't like that. And then you change it.
For sure.
And I'd love to hear your thoughts on that because that's something everybody in here could go do and it's free. Costs them nothing.
Yeah. I mean, I think a couple of things you hit there. One, I think you need to make sure that you are moving and you are doing, again, my chief operating officer, she does talks and walks.
Yeah.
Or talk and walks, right? And so with her managers, I give her a call. I'm like, hey, it's windy out. Yeah, I just got off the phone with the meeting. I'm like, what are you doing?
I'm at the grocery store.
Yeah, I'm like, I'm walking and talking to the managers. It's a great way to just get out of your head, right? Get out of your space, just to kind of, it's always better. Like you accept information. That's why going to conferences, a lot of people promote going to conferences because just being out there than your normal bubble, right? You're open to hearing the communication, hearing the information, hearing the training, hearing the knowledge differently because you're there, wait for it, right?
Yeah.
And so I think that's important. Body language is really important. Like, again, closing my eyes when I'm talking to someone on an audio-based call, I'm using my hands. I'm doing body language as if I'm there physically. I'm like, my wife's like, what are you doing? I'm like, I'm talking to someone. She's like, they can't see you. I'm like, yeah, but I'm pretending they can. They can hear my body language through my voice, right?
And it will change it. It allows, I'm doing it right now. It's like,
yeah,
it allows you to be expressive and no one sees this. So just do it,
Absolutely. 100%. Couldn't agree more. So those are the things that we're doing or I do, or I advise our team to do when it comes to moving and being engaged and physically being engaged in the activities for sure.
I heard something today. I want to get your thoughts on it. It kind of blew my mind. It was so simple. When we get into our head, right, we're really focused on our problem and it's never fun, but we're addicted to it, right? We're like so addicted to feeling a certain way. And that goes to neural pathways and how we were raised. And you and I, at least I'm not qualified to go there. But that simple rewiring of doing things is so powerful. Motion creates emotion. Emotion creates motion. I got on a plane the other day, Gabe, and I even texted you, I think, and told you. I mean, it's been kind of slow the last month and a half, not with business, but with new business. And, there were some times where I'd look over, I'm like, gosh, I I don't know if I can say this content-led sales thing is working right now. It's working for our clients, but it's not driving business for us. So I really started to think about it. And I started booking trips, right? Coming out to see you next month, right? I went and saw, I'm seeing every customer, not making them pay for anything. It's like, you're not paying for the plane trip. You're not paying for that. I'm coming to see you.
Yeah.
And we're just going to talk. That's it. And inevitably out of that conversation, every one of them has turned into the two so far. The first one turned into more business, right? Great. We love that. The second one turned into $250,000 of an investment with a further investigation of up to $5 million if we want to bring a product to market. No idea that was on the other end of that trip for me, Gabe. I thought I was going to interview a CEO as a client of ours and maybe talk about investment. And so the power of getting in front of somebody, and he even said it on the call today. He goes, there was something, I don't know what it was, just talking to you, I just felt something. And I'm like, dude, I've talked to you 12 times. You barely recognize me.
Yep.
Well, I'm on a Zoom call with him, interviewing him once a week. That's all I get to talk to him. And so this allowed us to walk in the hallway, right? You know, Gabe, and I've planted over to you here because I thought of you when I did this. I was like, okay, he's going to the bathroom. So if I go out in the hallway, I've got about 7 minutes. If I catch him on the way back to the bathroom, I've got about 4 minutes. He can still get to his meeting, and I'm going to ask him the big question.
Yeah.
And so I was doing everything a salesperson could do, like approach them the right way. Don't make them ever go overtime, by the way. I hate that when people are like, just 1 minute, 7 minutes later.
Yeah.
So I did it. He said, great. We shook hands. I flew back. We hopped on a call 2 days later. That happened, right? Yeah. And so I only say that because I don't believe inevitably anything other than the fact that I chose to get up and get out of my basement. Something told the universe, this boy is ready to play.
Sure.
Do you think that that's possible, or is that some guru hippie crazy stuff?
I don't think it's possible. I mean, I think it's exactly what you would expect it to be. I mean, you're going out and you're out of here's the deal. When you get comfortable with being uncomfortable, that's when the magic starts to happen. Like, you got to get uncomfortable. You got to go out and do it. And I love, by the way, how you said, like, you mathematically, like, that's so me. Like, okay, if I calculate, and I'm like sitting on my watch calculating it, right, to figure it all out. I mean, that's what you're talking about. But because it's intentional, because you care, because you actually give a shit. Like, that's what that's all about.
I'm in California, bro, to your point. Like, when you're on the phone with a decision maker, you're never going to get that person again.
Nope.
All I could think is, I'm never going to be here for the first time making a first impression when I got 4 fucking minutes, but I just built rapport for 45 minutes, you know?
Well, here's the deal. Like, people like always like we love alley-oop because it's basketball. It's a great thing, like shots on net. But, you know, people always compare like baseball as the analogy in sales. I think it's BS. I mean, the reality is you get 3 strikes in baseball. In cold calling, you get 1. You know what I mean? Like, you get 3 strikes when you're in the batter's box. You know, that's easy compared to what we got. We got 1 shot, you know, and like Eminem says, right? But like, that's it. You got 1 strike, you know, and it's more like that basketball. You throw the ball on the buzzer, and if it goes in, you win. If it doesn't, you don't. And that's how you have to look at it. And it's very, very, very true. You know, first impressions are everything. It is the case very much in sales. Now, can you call back and can you clean it up? Sure. Can you do it tomorrow? No. Right. So you have to, you know, hopefully, you know, spend some time away to come back. But yeah, it is a 1 shot, 1 strike situation.
Yeah. And that sucks, right? Because learning the consequence of losing is the pain that motivates winning for a lot of people. And we'd all like to go back and do that pitch again, like that 1 call again. You can't. That was the price of admission to the next layer. Right.
And you can say, sure, well, there's other people out there, a lot of fish in the sea. And it's true. Like, that's the whole game of sales. Like, okay, just go to another person, but level up your game, man. I mean, like, that's how the winners make it. Like, people, I was on a podcast a few days ago, and they asked me, like, what is the biggest advice you can give right now, anyone in the sales game? And I said, get better. Right now, it's not easy anymore. It's not low hanging fruit. Like, all these AEs are struggling, and they're wondering why. And frankly, yes, the market is a big reason, but the other flip side of it is you're just not good. And I'm not trying to be a jerk about it. You're just not good. Like, get better. Like, you know, get better, and you can.
It is. God, in the good times, right? Everybody's good, right? Everybody's great.
Eating lobster.
It's interesting. I've not yet yet had a bad year during the 2 recessions I've been a part of. And I say that with empathy because I'm scared shitless, you know. And I say scared shitless is I don't know what other people's mindset is around money. I can really only say we're a destination that if you want to spend your money, we are a good option and this is what we do. Because nobody's talking anybody into anything when you don't have the money to pay for it. That's like talking somebody into borrowing money when they don't need it. It doesn't make sense, you know?
Right.
Like, yeah, I'd feel good to have 100 grand, but I'm not paying 7% when I don't need it, you know? And so I feel like the best thing you can do, and to sum this all up, is, you know, we didn't talk about breathing. I think because SDRs talk, they forget to breathe, and that can increase anxiety. And on the other end of that is it helps the other person to listen when you tempo it out. And so taking that walk, listening to yourself, finding those patterns, and then applying them and doing that over and over again is a really only way to mastery. Plus, I think it clears a lot of cobwebs and negative thoughts out of your head. Gabe, what's your sort of action item for everybody on that before we move on to the brain, the mind?
Well, yeah, I mean, we were on a call camp last week, and we were recognizing an SDR who we were listening them in a group session do a call, and this prospect was throwing, you know, everything in the kitchen sink at this person, but it wasn't the what she was saying, it was the how she was responding to the different curveballs that were being thrown. She was so calm, so cool and collective, so patient, and I'm talking slowly on purpose because that's how she was, man. And like it was like, you know, if I can picture it, it was like this person just punching, you know, hitting a you know, one of those what's the thing, the when you
Pinata.
pinata, like she was a pinata just getting smacked with this prospect, and she was cool as a cucumber. And I
Ooh.
think that's where you have to be, like that's mastery, right? And not letting that affect you. And you have to be in a mental spot to be, you know, zened out enough to handle it that way. Now, I'm sure her blood pressure was high and her mind was racing, but you couldn't tell. And so that was, and by the way, got the meeting. So that's what it's all about.
Unfuckwithable. That's that mindset. I
Yeah.
love it.
Yeah. It's the confidence, right? It's like, okay, I know what I am doing. I know I'm a pro,
Mhm.
and I know whatever you throw my way, right? I'm going to be prepared to respond to it. And that's why we're very specific about our training. Like our training is we figured out that there's 10 objections you'll ever hear. You know, there's millions of things you'll hear, but you can put them in 10 different buckets. So when you can know without a shadow of a doubt what someone's going to throw your way and how to respond to it, man, that's when it starts getting really fun.
Is this like that secret? I keep hearing about these 10
Yeah.
objections. Are
Yeah.
you able to share those?
For $1 million. No, I'm just
I feel like we
well,
should do a whole episode on it.
the thing is like I have no problem sharing them, but like once I do it, it starts asking a bunch of questions. So maybe we can like do one at the end of every podcast or something like that.
I got asked the question today, are you guys going to do a live? And I said, you know, I've got a LinkedIn live account. I'll ask Gabe. I said, that wouldn't be the worst idea. And they said, you guys should try to host and set the world record for the most simultaneous cold calls at the same time.
Yeah, that would be
And
awesome.
I said, something like that would be fun. I think any sort of community to help support you guys is what we're all about. We're trying to do it with words and motivation right now, but more to come. Transitioning to the tough one, the mind. Quick background on myself. I as I'm saying this, Gabe, I said that the spirit was the toughest one. That's the toughest one now. In my teens, I was very confident. I was scared of nothing in life. Nothing. I was that guy who had a really good high school and college. Like I cruised through it. Confidence. I was like, man, if this is what life is like, I've got this on lockdown. 20s happened pretty good. You know, got married in my 30s, anxiety started coming on. And so not taking care of myself, not sleeping enough, you know, alcohol, things like that. Yes, I will say very clearly, I do think you're poisoning yourself with alcohol. I have no fucking qualm saying that.
Yeah,
None.
I agree.
Not judging you. You're poisoning
I
yourself.
haven't had a drop of alcohol 2 Februarys ago. So yeah.
What else would anybody with the right mind intentionally poison themselves with?
Doesn't make any sense. And listen, I enjoy alcohol. I lived in Napa. You know, I love, you know, wine with dinner. I had it when I was a young kid, and I've never had an issue with alcohol in any way. People always think that's because that's why I stopped. No, my wife and I just said like, okay, is this helping us in any capacity other than our
Yeah.
lowering our bank account and getting tired when we wake up and having headaches and gaining weight and like
Yeah.
what's the point? And so we just said, let's just stop. And by the way, we made a decision to just stop for like 90 days and see what would
Yeah.
happen.
Kept going.
And I felt so great. And it was great, great, all positives on all the check marks we put next to it. And we
Hmm.
haven't missed it anytime since. And it's been great.
I wish mine was that easy. I mean, not easy. That's not easy, I should say, but
It's not easy. I mean,
being
culturally, it's
proactive.
not easy.
Yeah.
Like people look at you weird and like,
Hmm.
but I think the world, I mean, it's definitely trending. I mean, there's more mocktails on menus than
Yep.
you've ever seen before, and there's, it's not as cool anymore. It's like how cigarettes have kind of gone away, right? Back when we were
Yeah.
kids, we had billboards everywhere, and everyone was smoking cigarettes, and that was a cool thing. And
We
now
should
it's like,
smoke right now on the show. Just smoke cigarettes.
I've never puffed a cigarette in my entire life.
I believe that actually.
I swear to God, I've never done it,
Yeah.
and it's like, I grew around it. My stepfather died when I was 16 of a massive heart attack, age 47. Walked in on that happened. It was tragic. I'm like, dude, I'm never doing that. And he did smoke, and so like, it just kind of rocked my world and gave me a reason to not do it. But at the end of the day, yeah, I think like the lack of alcohol and curbing that is much more commonplace than ever before.
I'd say that it's safe to say alcohol, as the two guys on this show will tell you, like our lives are better off without it as it applies to SDRing. I know that when I quit drinking, my biggest fear when I was in rehab was I know I'm going to quit this time because I can't make it alive unless I do, I don't think. And I don't know if I was lying to myself that I'm pretty sure I would have died, but I mean, everybody says that. I don't care about that. Nobody really cares about what would have happened. I think what I did was made a decision to say, I need to get on the other side of this. And if you're out there listening and you're struggling with that, I would say, I get it. Like, I didn't know if I'd have a job coming out of it. Like, I took it to the extreme. I was not
Sure.
like Gabe, where I was like, I should be proactive. I think, I say, I know, like I have the disease, right? If there was a bottle of vodka in front of me, it was going down. And
Yeah.
that wasn't always the case. And so when it started to happen, I was like, this is normal. Like I used to be able to have 2 beers. Now I can't even get like relaxed until I have a fourth tall, stiff drink.
Yeah.
But what was happening was ignoring all the things in my life and trying to bury my head in work and
Yeah.
distracting myself. And so catches up to you, right? And so what that
Sure.
led to was crisis after crisis after crisis after life's ruined. But really simply what it means was I was not efficient at work and still able to perform at a high level. All I do now is kind of kick myself and say, man, like you really blew that 5-year window of your life when you were thriving. You were actually like having to work really hard
Yeah.
because you were trying to take care of the hangover, show up and perform, and then do it all over again the same night at 4 p.m. and repeat. And man, it just mentally beat the shit out of me, Gabe.
Sure. No, it makes a lot of sense. And yeah, I'm glad you're on the other side of it, man.
I don't
Congratulations.
know. I mean, you can almost go statistically. If we have 100 listeners out there, there's some people who are dealing with this and some people who aren't. Some people were jealous of you. You can drink very normally, go make some mistakes on a Friday and not touch it for another month. I wish I could be you. But instead, I think the biggest thing is to say on the mind piece, Gabe, it's to also, when you don't do those things, I was going to say to you is it's easy when you don't have other vices to make work your vice, right? Because it feels in control. It feels like this is what I'm good at. So I can ignore the relationships in my life. I can
Well,
ignore my spouse,
yeah.
ignore my kids.
Well, that is me. I mean, I do have vices, and I would say the big one is work. So I did some things to make that happen. I hired a personal trainer. By the way,
Mhm.
Mike Sheffer, if you're asking, plug, he's awesome. If you want to go check him out.
The
And
editor, plug Mike Sheffer, get his LinkedIn all over that because we want him as a customer.
yeah, he's great. He really is. But at the end of the day, like he's helped me, be a better version of me from a a body and athletic and a way of just kind of not bearing in work but bearing in health. And then
Oh,
my wife's incredible. Like she works from home, and so she keeps
mhm.
me very well grounded. I think the problem was, I work so much and I put so much time into my work that when you're off site or in office, you're there all day long. Working
Yeah.
from home, I think, has been a blessing because she's home too. And she, makes sure that I'm taking some time away and I'm eating and like doing all the great things that I would not be doing to take care of myself. But that's
Yeah.
been a huge blessing for me. And then when my daughter comes home from school, like, it's great. And she's very much a part of our company. She knows
Mhm.
who everyone is at our company. They know her. She's sitting on my
That's so
lap,
cool for her.
doing
Yeah.
doing videos. It's like, take your kid to work day. Like she's doing that 3/4 of my day. So like, it's pretty cool. And
Yeah.
those things have helped my vice of, continual work to be a part of
Mm,
the family. And it's now a family business as opposed to just
I love
dad
that.
away from home, all the time.
That makes a big difference. I've recently gone into, business. I shouldn't say gone into business, started working more in that respect. And I will say, like, it's really rewarding to be working
Yeah,
with your partner.
for
I
sure.
think also someone said something to me one time, and I really paid attention to. They said, I'm not judging, but if you look around, the most successful people in your life usually have a very strong partner or spouse. It's not by accident.
Nope. That's
And
not
I think
just
you can speak to
that's
that.
not a cliche just to say something nice about your partner, right? That is a
Yeah.
true statement. And yeah, I couldn't agree more with that. And so yeah, it takes support. It takes
Yeah.
support.
It takes a village. And I think if you're going to, in sales, right, we can make great amounts of money. We can also have times that aren't as great. So I think when I've seen people who are in a, call it, they're married or they have a family, right? And they have someone who's at home taking care of the kids, it gets to be really stressful because now you're the sole income provider. You don't have that cushion. But I've also seen those people work harder. And again, probably going to get some people calling me out. I don't think those people work harder without the motivation of having to do it for their kids, right? And I think that that's just more motivation to be doing the right things. And as you go through life, you start doing things for other people versus
Yeah. Well, I think you're
yourself.
jumping into that third piece, right? The emotional piece, which is like
Yeah.
how we wanted to close this out. What I was prepared to say on that piece is exactly what you just said, and other people say it similarly by using the word their why, right? We've heard that
Yeah.
before, and like I always say, if your why doesn't make you cry, it's not big
Hmm.
enough, right? If your why doesn't make you cry, it's not big enough. So, I'm not going to start crying here, but maybe I am. I don't know. But the
Yeah.
reality is like that's what you have to really put in front of you. And I do believe, and I don't mean to call people out, but you can have a why without having a family. You can have a why without having kids. And it's okay to have, by the way, a material why and an emotional why. Like
Mm.
I always put carrots in front of me. Like I reward myself. If we had a bad month or a bad quarter, I'm not going to buy that thing I really want to do. But if we do, I am going to do it. And it's not
Yeah.
for the love of material things. It's not for the love of money or not for the love of things, but it's for the incentive and the reward that you get to go through the things you have to go through to get it.
Yeah.
And I think that's important. I think one of my mentors, Jim Rohn, said a long time ago, is like, you should make a goal to make $1,000,000, not for the money, because you could give the money away, but for what it will make of you to achieve it, because then you can
Yeah.
go do it again, right?
Yeah.
And that's the exciting part, is your why needs to give you enough motivation to run through walls, to hear the word no, to hear the word screw off, don't call me again, and that's it.
Resiliency, man.
There you go.
When I was knocked down on my hardest, I learned the biggest lessons. I think that does happen to us in life. And I
Hmm.
think it is not giving up. And we hear that often, but when you're in the throes of it, it is hard to not want to say, fuck it. It is not fair. This is too hard. And, I've never had, not even knock on wood. I guess I don't do that. I've not had cancer. I've not had any major health problems, you know, that have been kind of thrown out of the blue at me. But when they do happen, because that's life, right? I want to be able to look back and not say the thing that I hear all the time. And it came to me as clear as day yesterday, Gabe. I was sitting, where was I? I was in a line. Where was it? It was a store. And there was a great, wonderful old lady who walked up. And it was a Verizon wireless store. And the cashier goes, "Hey, you seem like you're a great person. What's your secret?" And she goes, "Just have fun."
Yeah.
And I was like, that's all I've ever heard.
Yeah.
I've never heard anything different. So why am I trying to do it different? And when I get really serious and wound up and start looking at the spreadsheets and thinking about the what ifs, it's not fun.
Right.
Why do I do that to myself? I do not know, but we all probably have some sort of negative loop that it feels is good to be in it, unfortunately, as the thought of being out of it. And we don't realize that, oh, I'm sad. Well, you've trained yourself that feeling sad is a normal feeling and you get addicted to it.
Sure.
because your body's used to it. It's not used to feeling joy, fighting through it. And I will say, when people say fight through, push through, I just say get through,
Yep.
because no matter how you get through it, the lesson is on the other side every
Yep.
time.
Yeah, we have a question in our family that we ask, and I, by the way, ask this of like all of my employees, my staff, my colleagues. We say it all the time, and it's like a go-to for me. People already know I'm going to say it before I say it. It's like a simple question: is are you happy?
Oh,
And that's it. So I ping my daughter, hey, are you happy? My wife, are you happy? My team, are you happy? And I ask that because happiness, is a state of mind, right? It's not,
mhm.
oh, I will be happy if I get this, or I will be happy if this happens. No, it's a state of mind. And it's just like a temperature check of, are you in a good mood? Essentially what it is. And that's really what you're saying. And if you're not, okay, tell me why so we can figure out what we need to do to get you back into a better mood. And it's
Yeah,
just like a mood check. And that's how we look at it. Say, hey, are you happy? And like, yeah, I'm happy. Or sometimes it's not. And we figure
yeah,
out why. But those are questions you should be asking yourself as opposed to what's wrong. Like a lot of people say, hey,
yeah,
what's wrong? What's wrong? What's wrong? And that's not a
yeah.
very good way of
Yeah, you don't seem like
asking.
yourself. What's wrong? You're like, really?
Yeah.
Thank you. Thank you.
Yeah, it's like horrible way of like interrogating someone. Like what it's a negative connotation to it. But
Yeah,
if you just stop saying that and switch it with "Are you happy?" and then you ask yourself, "Well, why wouldn't I be happy? Or why shouldn't I? Like, is it really worth not being happy for the thing I'm thinking about right now? Probably not, right?"
yeah.
So yeah, that's what we do.
Feels hard. It feels hard. And when you're thinking about that, I think if I had to view utopia, it would be, yeah, I want to work and make other people better, right? That's
Yeah,
easy to say. Doing that is like a life mission. And I'm convinced at this point in time that the real reason we're all here is to simply progress through the journey and ultimately discover the meaning of life, but it is not presented to you at birth. And I feel like that's different for everybody. So whether it's I didn't get the promotion I wanted, or that's not fair, or I got my leg cut off, that's not fair. Those are two totally different things. Both are seemingly unfair, but you should probably go pick up Man's Search for Meaning and take a read at the book, because I have to do that to ground myself, to remember that this gentleman who wrote the book based on a true story had no less than 200 chances where he should have died. And his mind said, no, I'm not ready.
right.
And you hear about old people who, and I know nothing about this, right? If they're passing in life, they're ready, right? And
Yeah,
so the sort of this idea that we don't believe that like universal intention can be a thing seems to be a thing.
yep,
It seems to be alive and well. And so if you're thinking negative thoughts, if you're doing this job and hoping it changes, it won't.
right.
You have to change.
Exactly. For things to get
That's
better,
hard.
you need to get better. That's it.
There's only
Right?
one thing that's in common in all these problems. Once somebody said to me once, and it's you. And I was like,
Yeah.
okay, you're right. Doesn't
Yep.
feel good, but that's a good place to start, is being honest, Gabe. Okay, so what's the big takeaway on spirit? And then we're going to summarize this up. What is your big, hey, this is how you go take care of yourself today?
Well, on the spirit side, I mean, I think it's about, a mindset shift, right? Looking at things on, optimistic view, right? Not always being dramatic, not always being negative.
But
Trying to,
how? How do I do that?
I think the biggest thing is to input into your brain what it is that you want to be, right? So it's listen, read, ingest. It's garbage in, garbage out. So associate with people who are like-minded and who are doing the things that you want to be doing. Who are you reading? What are you reading? What is it that you're listening to? What podcasts are you listening to? Like that's what you have to be doing. That's what get your mindset straight. And just like a habit, just like working out, like you have to do it every day. Well, the same thing, you have to have some sort
Yeah.
of mentorship program of input that is going to allow you to think like that consistently. And then that would be my answer to that question.
I don't know what it is, but it has two channels. And essentially, it is acknowledging that we all have two voices inside our head. There was an experiment done that cut the brain right down the middle. And in between that brain is the part that autistic people lack, which is the connectivity between creativity and facts. And that's why they may feel or just facts, but it's very hard for them to do both.
Yeah.
And when you think of that experiment, you really understand that these glasses are pretty powerful, because when you put them on, It goes over your eyes and your ears. And so it uses motion to try and train you to center. But it starts with the creative voice, and then it won't stop until you're centered, essentially.
Right.
And so the gentleman I talked to swore by it, former CEO, and he's like, it's the one thing in my life that I've done where I was like, undeniably, this worked. And so we'll get it on the B-roll, because now I'm like, man, I got to get that, or I got to get the Oculus bet, or whatever the new bet is with the glasses, all the technology. I want it all. But I think that if I could put those on my head every morning and get the thoughts out, as David Goggins says, I start every day in the shit cellar.
Right.
And I got to crawl out. And honestly, so do I. And I'm not trying to be cool. That sucks. Like, I start from a very negative place. And that is my natural state. I have to work hard to get to where you see me and go, is he just all, I mean, you see me, Gabe, other times, but like, oh, he's just this way or this way. Nope, none of us are. And
yeah,
I think that that's the part that, as you see Gabe and I, as you see John Barrows, and you start to look at these people and go, if I could only have what they have, they're probably saying the same thing about you. So don't be surprised.
Yep. Great show, man. This was fun.
This is fun. It felt a little philosophical, like we should have been smoking cigars and robes, but this is a good way to end the weekend.
More of like a pipe or something, like, right? You just like,
yeah, over here, like you would have a watch with a chain on it, like a stopwatch, or like a pocket watch.
Pocket watch, like a Peaky
Have you ever worn a pocket watch, Gabe?
I own one, but I've never worn it.
Do you wear suspenders?
I wore suspenders when I was young, yeah.
How high do you wear your dress socks when you wear, are you low booty socks when you dress, no socks, or high socks?
Oh, I wear high socks. Mid-shin.
Me too.
Yeah.
I can't stand booty socks with dress shoes.
No. With sneakers, I like the small socks. I
do too. That's good. That's a good way to go out.
Yeah.
This is good advice. This is the stuff we think of while we're grinding all week. We end up talking about booty socks.
They talked about mindset, spirituality, and socks.
Booty socks.
But it is SDRing. And by the way, like, this is, I think, probably one of the best shows we've done for this role, frankly. But we didn't talk about cold calls or tactical technology or anything like that. This is the way you need to be thinking right in order to do this day in and day out. Master the mundane. That's what a mentor of mine told me that before. Master the mundane. Like, this is a methodical, role. But if you do all the human stuff that we were just talking about, you can thrive dramatically.
Thrive you shall. Thank you for sticking with us today, guys, and listening to another 38 minutes and 4 seconds of the SDRing podcast. We'll be back next week. We're going to do episode 5. If you're listening to this show and you've made it this far, which we hope you have, go ahead and drop a comment on what you'd love to hear about. Make sure you hit like and subscribe. See me going down here. It's somewhere down there, depending on where YouTube wants it to be. We would love it, guys. We built this show from scratch. It was an idea. We're going on our 4th episode. We said we'd do 10, right? So we got 6 more here, and we're going to sit and reset and say, okay, what do we do now? Do we keep doing it? So let us know what your thoughts are. Shoot Gabe and I some DMs if you have some show ideas, guys. Thank you so much, Gabe. I'm going to leave the parting words with you for the week. You're going to let them peace out and everything. I am done.
I think the biggest thing is the takeaway from this entire, podcast is find a mentor, find a good book, find a good podcast, and make sure that you're using the law of association to your advantage so you can start thinking the same way they are.